Yeah. I'm just doing sell highs in this show. The buy low show ran really long. Michael Bolton, I'm not paying overtime.
Thanks, Josh. It's Michael Bolton here, and it's time for another episode of the Locked On Fantasy Basketball Podcast. Let's get to it.
Let's get to it, indeed.
You are Locked On Fantasy, your daily NBA fantasy podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to the Locked On Fantasy Basketball Podcast, brought to you by Basketball Monster. My name is Josh Lloyd, and on New Year's Eve, I hope you guys don't get too caught up in your molybdenmancy. I'm also the lead fantasy analyst at basketballmonster.com, and you can find me on Blue Sky, joshloyd.bsky.social, on Twitter at redrock_bball, on TikTok at redrock_bball, and on Instagram at LockedOnFantasyBasketball. Check out lockedondaily.com and find the best newsletter for your favorite NBA team. That's lockedondaily.com. And you can sign up, get an email in your inbox 5 days a week. Double bang this one as well. Like I said, if you want to hear about the buy low player section, I just did a video/audio podcast on that earlier, immediately before this. So I just split them into two just because it went for way too long and I yapped a little bit too much. I'll tell you who the buy lows were if you want to know who they were, and you can go back and hear the explanations of the reasons. It was Anthony Davis, it was Paul George, Domantas Sabonis, Keegan Murray, and Scotland Barnes. They were my buy lows on that show that I did earlier on today. So let's talk about it. It's National Bloody Mary Day. It's fantasy trades. We're talking sell highs now. I've done the recap of the buy lows and sell highs on that earlier show as well from 2 weeks ago, so you can go check that out. You know what? Don't go check it out. I'll quickly flash them up on the screen just so you can see. And if you listen on the audio, you've already heard this. But just a quick recap on the Week 9 buy low sell highs. It was Kyrie Irving, Jaylen Brown, Fred VanVleet, Devin Vassell, and Mark Williams. They were the buy lows 2 weeks ago. They have all improved significantly. The sell highs 2 weeks ago were Jimmy Butler, Derek White, Andrew Wiggins, Jeremy Grant, and Dennis Schroeder, and they have all fallen off to a pretty considerable degree. So it was a clean sweep of the board for the buy lows and sell highs from 2 weeks ago. That'll bring us to talk about some sell highs. So let's first go to New Orleans to talk about a sell high, and we're going to talk about Kenneth Murphy III, also known as Trey. Over the last 2 weeks, Trey Murphy has been very good, and honestly, I think there's actually parts of what Murphy has been doing that he might even be able to be better at. Honestly, I really like Trey Murphy as a player. I think that he is actually underrated on the Pelicans. The way that DeJounte Murray and CJ McCollum sort of froze him out yesterday and he just didn't get any shots was embarrassing for that team, and that team's seen their fair share of embarrassment this season. But what he's also doing at the moment, there's numerous things here. A, there's all that dynamic. B, there's maybe Brandon Ingram and Zion playing at some point. C, Trey has been hurt at times in his career. Yes, he was an Iron Man and played 82 games in one season, and how's that worked out for him? But there's other things to do with it as well. Because as good as he is, as much as I like what Trey does, as fantastic as I think he can be, and I think he can be a top 60, top 70 player, understanding all the ins and outs and other players coming and going, because I don't expect that Ingram and Zion are coming back and continuing to be there the whole season. And I think Trey is that good. But honestly, if they have their full starting healthy group, they showed that they'll just bring him off the bench, which is, again, stupid, but they'll bring him off the bench. So there's always that part of it. But it's not even that, because he's doing the thing. Minutes way up. Yep, he's playing 35 minutes a night. Usage, 24%. Is that going to be the thing that he does all season when those other players are there? I don't know. But it's up. And then he's putting that together with a 69 giggity% true shooting run. Now, Trey Murphy is an incredibly efficient shooter. 61 last season. He's at 60 this season. He's at 69 the last 2 weeks. He's hitting 47% on his threes. He's a good shooter. He's not that good. No one is. He's hitting 61% on his twos. He's a good shooter. He has had a couple of seasons of being a 61% shooter from two. But he's 56 this season. 60 is a very high mark to pass. And I'll give you credit on that. Like, he might stay at 61% from twos. He's not going to stay at 47% on threes. He's probably not going to continue to take 8 twos a game or make 4 threes a game or have field goal percentage of 54% or average 25 points a game. The other stuff, like 3 assists and 4 rebounds and 1 steal, 91% from the line. He's a really good free throw shooter. He did 91% for an entire season. Weirdly, 81.5 last season. As we know, free throws, you can still be good and still have a massive decline and cost people in fantasy that way, which is what happened to him last season. But it's back up to 90 now. Whether it holds, I don't know. But there's just numerous things there which are just big red flags. It's 69 true shooting. It's 47 from 3. It's 54 overall. It's hitting 4 threes a game. It's usage. It's minutes. It's his own health status. He's cooking. But if I could get any top 50 guy back for Trey Murphy, easy W. Honestly, even though I think he can be around 60th, 70th rest of season, I'd be inclined, because there's going to be uncertainty around him and the role and the team and the injuries and the fake injuries and the shutdowns, whatever you want to say, there's a lot of uncertainty. If you could get someone who felt more secure about in that range, a one-for-one swap would be okay. It would make sense to me. Because Trey's doing a lot of stuff. He's flying, but there will be periods where he's not. The shots don't go in. The minutes drop. The usage drops. He's on the bench. And this is almost where you can double end this one, where maybe you sell high, then those guys come back. There's a 2-week run where he plays 30 minutes off the bench, and then he shoots 25% from 3 for 2 weeks. People go, man, I'm out on this guy. And you buy him back for a top 100 player. And then he heats back up, and then someone else gets hurt. So much of that is what this is about. It's about playing the ups and the downs and getting in and getting out and extracting value. And if you could do things on both ends, then an extra double win for you, I think. Love Trey. Love him. It's the circumstances that I'm skeptical of. I think that Trey Murphy will have, in his career, multiple top 40 seasons. I just don't think it'll be this one, given the dynamics around the team. I don't think it'll be this one. But he's rolling the way that someone who is a top 40 player would roll. He's hit 38 fantasy points a game, when realistically he's more 33, 34. And another thing I will mention about fantasy points leagues, and I talked about them quite a bit in the Buy Low, Sell High show. But one of the things that I notice, and I don't know if you notice this when I'm doing these shows and put up the fantasy points numbers, and people talk so much about trading in fantasy points leagues, and my number one question to most people who say, well, I'm doing this trade, what do you think? Or should I do this? And I say, why? Why would you do it? What's your point in doing it? Like that's nearly always going to be my question. It should be the question that you ask yourself when a trade is about to happen. You go, why? What for? What's the point of this? Because when we look at fantasy points numbers and rankings and all that sort of stuff, the difference between a 50th ranked player and the 65th ranked player is like 3 fantasy points. The difference between the 65th ranked guy and the 80th ranked guy is like 2.5 or 2 fantasy points. These things are so small. These margins are so tiny. So Trey Murphy is rolling at the moment, and he's averaging 4 fantasy points more than I think he will rest of season. 4. You know what that is? Like, it's nothing. It's a steal. It's a steal. It's hard. It's like 1 steal a week plus 1 3 a week plus 1 rebound a week extra. That's what it's. They're so small, these numbers. So when you're doing a trade and you go, I'm winning here by 3 fantasy points. By streaming in guys in a fantasy points league, and fantasy points is availability and its volume. They are in category leagues, yes, but less so because you've got all the different categories to try and balance, and you can create situations out of other spots. Usage volume is all it's really about in points leagues. So trying to figure out a 3-point gap, is he going to drop and he's going to improve? Like, just smart streaming, utilizing your worst roster spot to get more guys in, is usually the answer anyway, because these margins are tiny. 2 fantasy points a game, 3 fantasy points a game difference is so small, man. It's not hard to catch that up. It's really not. It's pretty easy, in fact. I hope that soliloquy. Do you say soliloquy or soliloquy? I don't even know what I say because I don't say it enough, but that's okay. But yeah, I hope that makes sense. If you want to debate that, that's okay. Drop that in the comments as well. We've got 4 more sell highs to talk about. Today's episode is brought to you, though, in the interim, well, it's not brought to you the whole way through, by Rocket RX. Yes, Rocket RX helps you, and if you're ready, of course, to boost your confidence and take control in the bedroom. Rocket RX has got that solution for you. Imagine if you could feel more prepared and you can be performing at your best. Rocket RX makes that simple and stress-free. FDA-approved treatments for erectile dysfunction are provided by Rocket RX at a lower cost than the branded alternatives. You don't have to worry about going to a doctor and feeling uncomfortable. You don't have to worry about an uncomfortable trip to the pharmacy. And by the way, as a pharmacist, you might think you're feeling uncomfortable and think, oh, this guy is judging me. We're not. We honestly don't care about that. Like, we just don't. We just go, all right, hope it works for you, bro. High five. Yeah? So, destigmatize it, but I'm not going to tell you not to feel it. Delivered to your house, plain packaging, easy. 100% online consultation. You can get a free prescription from RocketRx today. So go to rocketrx.com to get started now. It only takes 2 minutes. Right now, listeners can get 40% off your first order when you use the code LOCKEDONNBA. That is rocketrx.com. The code is LOCKEDONNBA. And you get 40% off your first order. Terms and conditions apply. RocketRx. Better sex made simple. Okay, who is the next sell high on my list? We're going to the Clippers. And I know you want to debate it. And I'm hearing a lot of chatter about this at the moment. I don't know why I'm hearing so much about it. About Norman Powell being an all-star. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that it's incorrect. Because I actually haven't sat down and tried to figure out my all-star teams yet. Seems unlikely, though, to me. I know he's been really good. But an all-star berth seems pretty unlikely. We've got Kawhi Leonard allegedly returning this weekend. And yeah, like if there's anyone who's got less faith in Kawhi playing out the season than me, like please show me them. I think he's actually cooked for like the rest of his career. I think he'll play and he'll be good, but it's the longevity and the ability for that to last is not really there. But all that's like, it fades down a little bit when talking about Norman Powell because he's dominating at the moment. He's putting up ridiculous numbers. I talked about him a little bit on the recap show yesterday. He is the 26th ranked player over the last 2 weeks. He's averaging almost 43 fantasy points. Now, this one is one where I think he's probably a 33, 34 fantasy point player. That is a big difference. Now, you might not. You might be of the idea of, well, Kawhi will come back, he'll take attention away, Powell will actually shoot better, and they'll keep him as this high usage player, and James Harden will drop off completely, and it'll be Powell that's cooking. And that's cute and all. I don't see it. I don't see how it happens. Now, I don't think that Norm Powell is going to go back to being a player that took 10 shots a game, which is what happened last season. He's at 17 this season. He could easily take some of the Paul George usage role. That is 100% true. I think that's a real possibility, and the likelihood of that is huge. So he's not going back to last season. But he's doing something at the moment which is just bumping things through the roof. His usage is 30% over the last 2 weeks. He's attempting 22 shots per game with 6 free throws a game. For reference, he attempted 2 a game last season. His usage last season was 20. The year before, 25. The year before, 24. Like 25, 26 is reasonable. The problem with Powell is that there's just nothing else. 3 rebounds, 2.5 assists. He's at 1.2 steals. Last 3 years, 0.6, 0.8, 0.9. He's at 0.2 blocks. Like I said, his free throws are really good, 84%. Right, he's shooting really well, 49%. That can probably hold-ish around that area. But that usage, 6.4 free throws as well. And he's also added into this part 2 steals a game. He's averaging 29 points per game. The reason on these outlier stats up here you don't see shooting numbers is, again, this is hidden. But his shooting numbers have dropped. He's at 37% from 3. He's at 54 from 2, which is about where we expect him, around that area. But over the course of the season, he's 46% from 3. That has cooled, and the cooling has begun. But he's masked it by giving you 2 steals. He's masked it by attempting 22 shots a game. He's masked it by 6 free throws. He's masked it by 30 usage. And I'm so sorry, when Kawhi returns, those things are impossible to stick. So yeah, the 3-pointers might go back to 40%. That's possible. His 3-point numbers over the last 3 years, 44, 40, 42. He's really good. That is different to 46. So if he has a run from here on out at 38% from 3, and the usage drops 4 percentage points, and the steals cut in half from what we're doing at the moment, well, he's not going to be a top 30 player, a top 40 player, a top 50 player. I think he's like a 60, 70, 80 sort of a guy. Yeah, huge steal as the late round guy. We weren't even sure early in drafting seasons whether he would be a starter this season. He will be all season. No problem with that. He's been unbelievably good. But he's also he's 31 and a half. Seems unlikely that you develop into a star at this point, even though he's been awesome. But a lot of it is situational opportunity. And this, we talk about riding the wave and dealing with how people are talking. The amount of all-star chatter about him, probably never. If you went into Google Trends, I'm not going to do it, but maybe you can, and look at Norm Powell all-star and see like that spike in words. I'm pretty sure it's going to. Maybe I should do it. Maybe I should do it now. All right, so I had a look at the Google Trends on Norman Powell all-star, and take a look at that. Never a mention over the last 90 days, and then lately, look at that, and the way that they're doing a predictive trend of how high it's going, it's flying up the board. So that's where you can try and cash in. Again, I haven't done all-star teams. I haven't really looked at it. I think it's unlikely, but with the groundswell there, and people love points, and he's taking 1 million shots, there is an ability to cash in on this, I think, pretty clearly at the moment. Again, you might want to disagree on that, and that's okay. We're going to talk about a sell high player for the Bulls, but it's Josh Giddey. I'm not going to talk about selling high on Nikola Vucevic because over the last 2 weeks, he's the 63rd ranked player. Josh Giddey at the moment is the guy we're going to talk about because he returned from his ankle injury and he's doing really good things. He's putting up very good numbers. Now, again, I will preface this by saying this is a small sample size, but this stuff is not purely off the numbers. The numbers are a part of it, obviously, but it's not purely off the numbers. But he's the 16th ranked player over the last 2 weeks. He's averaging 49 fantasy points, 18, 14, and 8 with a steal. That's great. Fantastic. There's a lot of things here that just aren't likely, but it's more important that when you listen to the way that people talk about him, even if I could go back to his last 8 games and they're still really good and he's like a top 30 player in that time. But it's like, well, this is what we thought that we were going to get from him. And I've probably been guilty of saying that as well. I think pretty sure I did. We sort of thought we might get this, but no, we didn't. We thought we'd get 60 to 70, not top 20, not top 25. So it's above that. And it's not just about the 2 games since he returned. It's not just about that. Those 2 games, one was a huge triple-double. The other one was a pretty good game. And then we've seen a few triple-doubles from him recently. There's just a lot of things happening for Giddey at the moment. Well, for a start, 13.5 rebounds a game. That's just not a real number. But one thing that's been a really, really down for him this season, and it's bumped up, is his free throw numbers. And I think they sort of can settle in around 80, but he's 88%. He's hitting 63% of his twos. His usage is at 27%. And again, we can look at what happened over the last month because the numbers are still really good there for him. But it's not quite as good. And I do think that when we put the narrative in of we were expecting this, or the Bulls love what Giddey can bring. Now, for some of you, you have no interest in trading for Josh Giddey. I understand that. Like the 49 fantasy points he's averaging are huge, but it is 2 games. But there are going to be people who are big into Josh Giddey as a fantasy guy and think that, yes, Levine will be injured, shut down, traded. Vooch will be injured, traded, shut down. And Giddey will get to run things and put up big numbers. There are people who believe that. And one of them might be you. And that's okay. Maybe he can. But if I could get any top 40 guy back, it's probably a stretch. But you just never know. And that's really, when we're talking about buy lows and sell highs, that's really what it's about. You just never know. Do you have to sell a sell high player? No. You don't have to do anything. You just hold on to them. You can just enjoy what you're getting. Understanding, and people in your league, because it's a double onyx, diamond, platinum, titanium league, of course, will not want to trade for in those sort of scenarios. Because they know where the value is going. But there'll be some random reactive person in some leagues where it's just worth investigating. It's worth looking in and saying, will this be a realistic thing to continue to happen? And they might say yes, and you say no. And they might give up something insane for it. And that's where you do it. And often, confusing people in trades, which may not be your goal, but it can be a successful thing, is by just including multiple people in deals. Have multiple buy lows and multiple sell highs, or include a buy low and a sell high. Just go, well, where's this for? I don't know where this is going. How do I evaluate this? That can often be a strategy that has a level of success in trying to get these things over the line. Because you won't get full return in a 1-for-1, but you might be able to get a little bit more through it. It's about the vibes, it's about the ideas, it's about the chatter, and it's about the numbers as well. And the numbers are through the roof in limited sample. But when the numbers move that high and the chatter becomes, oh yeah, we expected it, then you pounce, or you try to pounce. Today's episode is also brought to you by Rocket Money. Subscriptions are just a way of life at this point, aren't they? Businesses and companies are using subscription models, and it's great. It helps you, get things delivered or whatever it is that you get on a monthly basis. You don't have to think about it too much, but you might have unwanted subscriptions sitting there. Things you don't remember you subscribe to. They're just draining money out of your bank account. You have multiple subscriptions to the same thing. That's where Rocket Money can come in. Rocket Money is a personal finance app that helps you track those unwanted subscriptions, track the ones that you've double banged, and be able to get yourself towards your financial goals easier. Helps you lower your bills, grow your savings, monitor your spending, all of that in the Rocket Money app. Rocket Money has over 5 million users and has saved a total of 500 million in cancel subscriptions, saving members up to $740 a year when you use all the app's premium features. So cancel your unwanted subscriptions and reach your financial goals faster with Rocket Money. Go to rocketmoney.com/lockedon today. That is rocketmoney.com/lockedon, rocketmoney.com/lockedon. How have you guys felt about the fact that I split these into 2 different shows just because I was going too long? I think it's a viable format. I'm not sure that it is. Well, anyway, we're trying it. We'll see how it goes. I want to hear from you, and if you think it's a little bit easier to sort of digest. The last two sell highs that we're talking about, we are going to Charlotte, and circumstances are a large portion of the way that we can approach buy lows and sell highs, and circumstances definitely moving in Miles Bridges' favor. Because he stunk early this season. He was really, really bad. And then over the last 2 weeks, of course, which is where these numbers sit, yeah, they're looking pretty good. He's the 32nd ranked player over the last 2 weeks. He's averaging 42 fantasy points. I think he's a 32, 33 guy. I think he's around 80 to 100 in category league ranks. He's averaging 21 and 9 with 4.5 assists. He's shooting a robust 96% from the line. There are a lot of things there that aren't going to hold, but the important thing to note is that Brandon Miller's been in and out. LaMelo Ball's been in and out. They've both missed each of the last 2 games, and Bridges has been able to cook in those 2 games. His last 4 games, Bridges, 24 and 8, 22, 14 and 6, 19, 10 and 6, 31, 12 and 8. So, number one, I'm just going to tell you that those 4.5 assists per game is driving a lot of what he's doing, and it just is not really where he's been. He's at 3.6 this season. He was 3.3 last season, 3.8 the year before that. Now, Charles Lee has changed some of the assist distribution on this team, yes. But it's also a lot of this thing is his last 3 games, he's averaging almost 7 assists per game. And that's 2 of those are without Ball and Miller. And that's inflating the numbers. His blocks are also at 1 per game over the last 6. He's been a 0.6 and 0.5 guy in blocks the last 2 years. He's at 10 rebounds and 21 points. He's at 18 points for the season. He's shooting 96 from the line, and he's not a bad free throw shooter by any means, but 83 and 80 the last 2 seasons. Right? Seems like unlikely you'd stick at never missing a free throw ever. 30% usage. Also, not a number I'm expecting to hold. He's at 26 for the season. He's really ramped up the usage of late. And when I'm looking at his numbers and projections, I probably do need to make a change in terms of his overall season usage numbers because they're high. But they're at a way higher spot at the moment. 18.5 field goal attempts per game over his last 6. It's not a number that screams sustainability. Now, there are people, weirdly, who are Miles Bridges stans. I don't know why that would be the person that you want to do it, unless it just be like, stick it to people. I don't know. But there are people that do that, and they're probably the ones that drafted him. But it's worth looking at what Bridges is doing at the moment and acknowledging that it's very good, while also acknowledging that there are numerous factors there, assists, usage, free throws, which are just not going to hold. There's just no way that that's going to be something that's going to be able to maintain at that level. There's not. It's very easy to see. But while he is cooking, that's when you lean in. I would be, if I could get a top 60 player back, a top 70 player back, all about it. Absolutely all for that. Because he is rolling. And again, if you can't, and if you're really enjoying what you're getting out of Miles Bridges, and you might be, then that's okay too. You can roll with it. You can enjoy what you're getting, and you could just keep it locked on, or keep it locked into that production and just enjoy it and understand that you're going to get an expectation of a drop off coming soon. But not everyone will feel that way, and that's realistically what we're talking about when we're doing buy lows and sell highs. Is not everyone is going to feel the same way. Not everyone is going to view things the same way. And you just want to try and get the advantages in where you can. The last player that I want to talk about on the buy low, sell high show, which is actually the sell high show, is a name that's been brought up a lot. And much like the Norman Powell discussion about buzz for All-Stars or Sixth Man of the Year, people love points, man. And DeAndre Hunter is getting frothed up the wazoo. Hunter, he's had a very good season. What is interesting, and I didn't really know this, I went and looked at my rolling 2-week rank graph, and I posted this on Blue Sky and on Twitter. But outside of like the last 3 weeks or so, Hunter was like around 100, 110, 120. Like he was fine, right? He was doing pretty well. He was fine. A lot of emptiness, but he was doing fine. But it's over the last 3 weeks that he's shot way up. And now he's a top 50 player over the last 2 weeks. He's averaging 33 fantasy points. He's averaging 24 real-life points. But all of the similar problems remain. 4 rebounds, 1.3 assists, 1 steal. And I say 1 steal because for him, that's actually huge. And look at that unbelievable shooting. You can tell me that I'm wrong on DeAndre Hunter. Totally cool. I get it. I didn't think he'd be this good. I didn't think he'd shoot this well. And at the moment, I did not believe in this at all. True. Right? I accept that. What I won't accept is that he's going to be this good moving forward. Because it's just not realistic. Over the last 6 games, where Hunter is a top 50 player, reminder, he's below average in rebounds, well below average in assists. It's peak for him in steals, and he's getting 1 a game. That's peak stuff. He's at 0.2 blocks. He never blocks a shot. Realistically, what we're doing here is, for some reason, he's attempting 7 free throws a game, which is double the number of last season. And yeah, usage is up to 26%, and he's getting some of that extra usage because DeJounte Murray's gone. He's up from 20 usage to 26 last season. And Bogdanovic has been out, and you're not really involved. And maybe that holds at 24-25. I think it does. But 7 free throws a game? I don't know. 90% from the line? Maybe. He's at 88 for the season. But he's never been above 85 prior to this. And even that's not really the big thing. Because he's hitting 46% on his threes. He's been hitting at that rate for a long period of time this season. It has been an extended run of elite shooting. He's never been a 40% shooter before. He's pairing that with elite free throws, elite free throw volume, and now he can't miss 2s either. He's at 54% on 2s for the season. Last season, 52. The year before that, 52. The year before that, 47. The last 6 games, 68. Leading to the true shooting pushing to 75%. So I don't care who you are, right? He, 60%, I think 58 is league average. 61, 62 is like elite level producer stuff. 75 is bonkers. Even the number that he's at for the season, 66, it's unbelievable. And I say unbelievable in basically the truest meaning of that word. I cannot believe, it's unbelievable to think that DeAndre Hunter will be shooting that well. It is actually literally unbelievable that he's shooting that high. So it is going to fall. I am very confident. Now, we make educated bets on this stuff. Maybe it doesn't. Maybe he remains an absolutely elite shooter all season long. It is possible, right? It is possible. I don't think so. It seems really unlikely to me that he would maintain that number. But it's happening. DeAndre Hunter, if we look at dunks and threes, he's in the 94th percentile for true shooting percentage. How is he getting there? Well, it's hits his threes really, but he's also hitting almost 70% at the rim. He's one of the most efficient shooters in the entire NBA. And that's how you do get big fantasy performances, but it's precarious. So if I could get a top 60 player, a top 70 player back for Hunter, I would do it. Otherwise, I would ride it out. There's a chance he could be top 100. There is also a chance it completely falls over because you don't get rebounds, assists, steals, or blocks. In the past, you've never gotten field goal percentage, and you've never gotten this volume of free throws. And I'm admitting that some of that stuff might hold. But there could be a bad stretch. Plus, his knees are done. So that's where I sit with that. And that is a sell high show. Sell high. Tell me what you thought of the split up idea, which was only an idea because I went too long on the first part. I went a little bit more in depth on some of this stuff. But let me know what you thought. And you can drop that in the comments below. Maybe it's an extra New Year's gift for you, an extra show, because you just enjoy listening to me for some reason. Don't forget, be safe, be happy, be good to yourself. Guys, we are done here. Thank you so much for listening, everyone. See ya.